Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor. Go to DerbyWars.com now, use promo code Survivor to get 5 free Survivor games with your first deposit.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt?
I'm fine, Brian. I think I'm going to start calling this the topsy-turvy Kentucky Derby.
You're using my words against me, Matt. I love it. Topsy-turvy, maybe the most topsy-turvy. Now, I grew up around a bunch of guys who knew what they were talking about, talking horses when I was a little boy. So I've been following this Kentucky Derby stuff for more than 4 decades, Matt. Probably the most topsy-turvy lead up to the Kentucky Derby that I've ever seen, and it just keeps going.
Yeah, if there's one thing that we can say for sure is that we can't really say anything for sure for this Kentucky Derby.
There you go. So we should expect wild and crazy things down in Hot Springs, Arkansas this Saturday for the Arkansas Derby. But before we go there, Matt, let's talk about what transpired on Saturday. And I'm going to start with the most formful of the 3 big Kentucky Derby preps, and that's in your neck of the woods, the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct. I say formful, but the horse that won it lost by more than 20 lengths in the previous race.
Yeah, Brian, and it was a beautiful day at Aqueduct for a change. It was warm, it was sunny, so it was a great day to be at the races. But like you said, Brian, the 3 best horses in most people's minds finished in the top 3, but it was Irish War Cry, the New Jersey bred, who reversed his form and got back to running the way he had been running in his first 4 races and kind of dominated the Wood Memorial and moved himself way back up the Derby list in the top few horses where he had been earlier in the year.
Yeah, Matt, it's nice to see. First off, it's nice to see Rajiv Mirage back and winning big races. I'm a fan of Rajiv. Matt, the lightly raced horses, Cloud Computing broke a bit slow, but I talked to Chad Browning at Lexington in Keeneland right after the race, and he said, well, the top 2 were clearly best. It didn't sound like he has any thoughts of running Cloud Computing back in the Derby. Battalion Runner did pretty much what we thought he would do. He went to the lead. He didn't have that much pressure, and he was clearly second best. Irish War Cry bounced back as many people thought he would. He showed that he is the horse that we saw prior to his last race, prior to the Fountain of Youth. Impressive performance. Time wasn't overly fast. It was less than a second faster than the Philly race. The Gazelle won easily by Miss Sky Warrior. I'm not sure if Irish War Cry is a horse that strikes me as a Kentucky Derby winner. He's a very nice horse. Happy for the Jersey bred. Happy for his connections. Good people. But I'm not sure. Having said that, Matt, maybe this is a year where no one is really, really a legitimate Kentucky Derby winner, and somebody's got to win it.
Someone has to win it, and I think I can put those few words after almost every horse. I'm not sure, Brian. And Battalion Runner ran pretty well. He was a little washy going into the gate, but I think he'd been that way in his other races. Was tired, had reason to, hadn't run since February. After the race, our friend and owner, Vinny Viola, said that he didn't think they'd go to the Derby, but they've kind of changed on that a little bit because I think Pletcher feels like maybe they should. So we'll wait and see whether they end up going on the first Saturday of May.
Yeah, it sounds like Todd Pletcher was talking Vinny Viola into running Battalion Runner, and he would provide a little bit more pace. I don't know that I love him, but certainly improvement could be expected, especially after what I'm about to say about McCracken in a few minutes. Battalion Runner needed the race, got a lot of experience out of it. You never know. Irish War Cry certainly looked like the better horse on Wood Memorial Day. Now, where I was, Matt, I was at Keeneland, of course, for the Bluegrass, and the longest shot on the board, 7-horse field. I should preface that to say I thought all 7 horses had a shot going in, but certainly this is the horse that deserved to be the 7th choice. He had run good races in graded stakes before, but IRAP was not coming out of a very good Sunland Derby where he was a well-beaten 4th. But he took this race by the throat latch. He followed Wild Shot, another long shot early. He took over the race and had plenty left to hold off Practical Joke, while the favorites, McCracken was 3rd, Tappert was 5th, J Boy's Echo was 4th. Surprising result, to say the least.
Another surprising result, that out of those 3 horses, 3 talented horses, that the 3 of them kind of came up empty down the stretch. Now, McCracken, we can understand that a little bit more because he's had a lot of time off. But J Boy's Echo and Tappert were disappointing. I know we'll get the standard line. We didn't have them cranked up 100% and that kind of thing. But it's still hard not to look at their performance as less than what I would have expected from them.
Agreed, Matt. Agreed. Especially for the 4th and 5th place finishers, they were really never involved. I did think, and having said, again, I'll preface this by saying McCracken was number 1 on my list going into the Bluegrass. Kind of a lukewarm number 1 this year. I think everybody's a little lukewarm on just about everybody going to the Kentucky Derby. But I thought McCracken overall ran a good race. He was in between horses. He was jostled a little bit. He made a move and probably a little closer than normal, not on the outside as has been his standard in all these winning races he's run. Needed the race, a few months off, only 2nd race of his 3-year-old year. I'm really ready to think that this prep was fine, even though it was not pretty. And I think McCracken will be a much better horse in 3.5 weeks for the Kentucky Derby. Also, Matt, I think if you're like me and you're holding out hope that McCracken is one of the true horses to beat in the Kentucky Derby, remember that Ian Wilkes is not a guy to push early. He wasn't looking to throw in a big performance. Now you can say, well, the horse doesn't know that, but he wasn't fully cranked. I think that's true, knowing Ian Wilkes and knowing McCracken's history in 2017. So I still have good hope that McCracken moves forward. IRAP, I don't like his chances in the Kentucky Derby as one of many speed horses trying to go 1.25 miles. Practical Joke is a wonderful horse, and I've been on the bandwagon saying that I just don't think he's a 1.25 mile horse. Nothing that I saw at Keeneland on Saturday changes my mind, Matt. Really nice horse. I think he's got a big future at distances shorter than 10 furlongs.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with his races the last 2. Just one thing that I might like to see with Practical Joke, and I don't know if it would make a difference, is that in his last 2 races, he's made a kind of an early move and flattened out down the stretch. I'd like to see him in his next start maybe make a move that's a little bit later on, and if he runs at the Derby, he's certainly going to have to do that if he does go on the first Saturday in May.
Yeah, well, that kind of goes along with what I think I'm saying, Matt. I think milers will do that. They'll show that turn of foot, but then they'll come up short when they're going a little farther than they want. Having said that, Practical Joke ran a good race. I know a lot of people like him. I get comments just about every day. Why aren't you on Practical Joke? I am on Practical Joke, just not at 10 furlongs, not for the Kentucky Derby. Hey, Matt, the Santa Anita Derby was slow. 5 horses finishing within 2 lengths at the wire. Is there any reason to think, now that Mastery is gone from the California landscape of Kentucky Derby contenders, is there any reason to think that anybody from the Santa Anita Derby can do anything in the Kentucky Derby?
Well, my feeling is no. I mean, it sure seems like this is the year that the West Coast is not holding all of the cards. It seems pretty clear that a West Coast horse is not going to be the favorite in the Derby this year. Baffert, it looks like, is not going to have a horse in the race. Doug O'Neill might have one horse in the race at this point. So the superstar trainers don't have what they used to. Nothing to discredit another comeback performance from Gormley, like we talked about with Irish War Cry. Gormley rebounded nicely. Royal Mo rebounded nicely. Yeah, the top four in that race were horses that we expected to be there. But like you said, Brian, coming around the turn, there was like 6, 7 horses spread across the track, and that kind of finish doesn't point out any superstars in there.
Yeah, and what happened certainly the last quarter mile, where they really did come home pretty slowly after strong early fractions. It was just not a fast second half of the race in any shape or format. Gormley overcame a little bit of trouble, but might have gotten a good trip the rest of the way. A little bit of trouble early. Battle of Midway, of course, was on the lead in a fast pace duel all the way and hung on well. Reached the World certainly went way wide, and Iliad went wide as well. They're 4th and 5th. It doesn't look like they're going to get into the Derby on points anyway. The horse that interests me a little bit, and this is as a long shot, is Royal Mo. I love the way he looks physically. I think he's a horse that's still growing into himself, that big frame, beautiful horse, Matt. I thought, and I heard far less talked about him than other horses. People were saying how game Battle of Midway was, but Royal Mo was right in that pace battle as well, and Royal Mo ran a lot more ground than Battle of Midway. He was out of the 13 hole, and he was wide the whole way. If Royal Mo were to improve in a mediocre Kentucky Derby, I think Royal Mo as a 30-1 shot interests me just a little bit.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all, Brian. And Uncle Mo that has shown some good things and should only get better as the year goes on.
Speaking of only getting better, Matt, how about the Dick Mandela 3-year-old filly? Paradise Woods is a daughter of Union Rags. She'd only had 2 sprints, and then she uncorks this bomb in the Santa Anita Oaks. Certainly, she was the most impressive 3-year-old that ran at Santa Anita on Saturday. Abel Tasman broke slow, was shuffled back, was too far out of it, tried to make a move. She was much the best of the rest, but Paradise Woods was a pole in front at the wire.
Yeah, Brian, we're starting to hear quite a lot of these Union Rags horses doing some really neat things on the racetrack. I mean, Uncle Mo's getting a lot of attention, but Union Rags needs to be right up there. And like you described with Abel Tasman, I don't think this was Mike Smith's best performance on a really good horse. Like you said, didn't break alertly, making a move, getting shuffled back. Then coming around the turn, the chart said 5 wide, but I don't know, Brian. It looked like it was 7, 8, 9 wide and beat the rest of the field. But wow, Mandela had Paradise Woods ready for that race.
Paradise Woods could be the best 3-year-old filly in the country now, Matt. That Unique Bella is on the temporary shelf. Farrell still is the horse to beat, the streaking filly from Kentucky and Louisiana. Salty, as we talked about, looked good. There's a lot of speed now. Miss Sky Warrior really just aired out the laundry against the Gazelle competition on Saturday. Miss Sky Warrior is speed. Paradise Woods is speed. Farrell is mostly speed. So maybe Abel Tasman, I'll get some odds on her because I think she can bounce back. But Paradise Woods might be the best of the bunch right now.
Well, that was a noteworthy performance there, but it was a situational kind of performance. We'll need to see that another big race from her.
Agreed, Matt. Yeah, that's a great word to use. Situational performance. She had everything her own way. Abel Tasman probably had everything against her, but still 11, 12 lengths. Certainly Paradise Woods was the best filly in the race. But I think situationally, things will be different at Churchill Downs. That's why I'm looking forward to maybe betting a filly who can come off the pace. And I think Abel Tasman is the best one, pointing for the Kentucky Oaks right now. Matt, let's jump into this week. Hot Springs, Arkansas. This is a week where we don't have a lot of preps to watch on Saturday. We just have one really big one. The Lexington Stakes at Keeneland is not coming up strong. So it's all about the Arkansas Derby. 100-pointer for the winner. It looks like Malagasy and Classic Empire are the 2 standouts on paper.
It sure does, Brian. There are some others in there, looking at Lee, Petrov, Untrapped, Sonneteer. They've all got some points. They'd all like to get some more points, and they can get them in fourth place and third place. Hey, Classic Empire is the wild card of the Derby Trail. What are we going to get, Brian? He was the favorite going into 2017, only one race and ran into that abscess in the hoof and then training issues. He seems like he's going the right way now, but he's shipping into a new track. He's got to handle all these kind of situations. So I applaud the Cassies for shipping and going for it in the Arkansas Derby. The field didn't come up that strong. What are we going to see, Brian? I have no idea with Classic Empire, but we do have Malagasy in there also, who another very talented pletcher, impressed in the Rebel. They're going for it again for the Grade 1. So what do you think?
Yeah, Classic Empire, kudos to the Cassies. They're doing everything they can, getting him to different training centers, doing things for his back, obviously taking care of the abscess immediately. They're doing everything they can. Classic Empire, as we saw last year many times, especially the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, is a very, very talented horse. Certainly, if not the most talented, one of the most talented horses of this crop. And I would expect a good performance. I like what I saw from his workouts recently. I think they have him feeling good again. But you're right, it's not an easy spot. We talked about McCracken needing the bluegrass a little bit. Classic Empire probably has even more reason to need this race. I could see him running well, but maybe never catching Malagasy. I'm going to say his name different every time because I'm still not sure how to say Malagasy or Malagasy, Matt, if you don't mind. Classic Empire is a horse that I want to see do well, and I want to see the best version of Classic Empire in the Kentucky Derby. We'll need a good prep in Arkansas. Like you, I'm not sure what to think, but I think in this field he's got a good shot to finish first, second, or third, which would, of course, give him plenty of points to get into the Derby. Now, Malagasy should be the horse to beat off what he's done. He's still undefeated. He's already won over the track, an impressive performance in the Rebel. He's got the speed. Yeah, there's a lot of other horses who might run Sonneteer, looking at Lee. Conquest Mo Money, by the way, Matt, interests me a little bit in here. I guess they're trying to get points as a possible supplement to the Kentucky Derby. I think he's an interesting horse, but I'd be kind of surprised, although I've said that all spring, if Malagasy or Classic Empire wasn't the winner.
Yes, Brian, I certainly agree with that. It looks like everything should set up really well for Malagasy.
Matt, okay, so we're talking about Arkansas Derby. That can change things a little bit. It also will affect how the points play out near the bottom. There are going to be some defections, whether connections decide not to run, such as Cloud Computing, possibly Patch, Battalion Runner. We don't know. It looks like Thunder Snow is coming over. The long shot I mentioned, Royal Mo, would not be in if the Derby was this week, points-wise. So there's a lot to shake out still. But right now, I'm sticking with the horses that I had 1-2 a week ago or 3 weeks ago, and that's McCracken and Gunavera. It's been a while since a horse won the Kentucky Derby without winning their last prep, but that was kind of commonplace for that to happen before just the last half dozen years. So I'm sticking with McCracken, number 1, Gunavera, number 2. Always Dreaming, I fully expect to be the favorite, and he certainly could win the Kentucky Derby, Matt, but I'm not going to be on the favorite in this Derby for sure. Royal Mo is a long shot. I'm interested, maybe Hence, coming from Calumet and coming from the Sunland Park Derby. How about you?
Yeah, Brian, it finally looks like a Derby year when we might get a big price trifecta again. Hasn't happened the last 2 years, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm feeling rejuvenated as a Derby trifecta guy. After the last 2 years, I was like, oh, maybe it's time to throw in that towel, but I'm taking it out for this year again.
Yeah, we're going to see some odds this year for sure. Like I said, unless something really impressive happens at Arkansas, look for Always Dreaming, the impressive winner of the Florida Derby, to be the favorite. Matt, other Derby news, I mentioned Thunder Snow. It looks like he is coming over, going to skip the turf and going to give Godolphin another try in the Derby. He's a horse I can't throw out because he has wonderful breeding in every corner of his pedigree, and he's proven it on turf and dirt over there. Gervin is now the streaking winner of the last two at Louisiana, including the Louisiana Derby, will now be ridden by Mike Smith as Brian Hernandez, interestingly. And I guess this goes along with my thought of McCracken is still the horse to beat. Brian Hernandez, after the Bluegrass, decided he's sticking with McCracken, opening the door for Gervin to find another jockey, and Mike Smith jumped on that opportunity. So Smith on Gervin, Hernandez stays on McCracken.
Yep, and also the Todd Pletcher crew is going to have to narrow down. Just yesterday, he said that one liner is off the Derby trail, that he wasn't happy with his last workout, so he's not going to Arkansas. He's not going to the Derby. Who knows? Pletcher likes to save some bullets for the Preakness and for the Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, as long as they don't run in the Derby, he likes to save some for the Preakness. By the way, if Patch does run, Patch seems like a 50-50 shot right now to be in the Derby. I think Patch is another horse that could surprise, one of the many Pletcher horses. All right, folks, this was another edition of HorseCenter. Of course, we're talking Kentucky Derby as we move ever closer. Matt, I believe we're only 25 days out from the big day, the first Saturday in May.
Wow. And fans, stay tuned stay on HorseCenter, because in the upcoming weeks, we will talk about our top contenders, and then we'll start talking about betting strategies and what the final field's going to look like, all the things you want to hear that Brian and I enjoy talking about so much. And of course, I'd like to thank our producer, Brett Workman.
Well done, Matt. Yeah, folks, all sorts of good stuff coming up on HorseCenter. Thank you for watching every week. Thank you to our sponsor, Derby Wars, the best contest site out there. We will see you next week on HorseCenter.